Thank you for joining us yet again on our news desk on QTV. The headlines. U.S. Ambassador to Zambia Daniel Foot has implored the Zambian government to commit to improving what he has described as its decaying relationship with the United States. A consortium of civil society organizations has appealed to members of parliament to reject the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10 as it comes up for debate in parliament. The Swedish government has sought assurance from the Ministry of Health that its funding, especially towards the medical supply chain, will be prudently utilized. Here now is the news in detail. United States Ambassador to Zambia Daniel Foot has not ruled out reduced aid to Zambia unless the government commits to improving what he has described as its decaying relationship with the United States. Speaking during a media briefing following a government rebuke over his statement on the 15-year jail term handed to a gay couple recently by the High Court, Mr. Foot says Zambia is unappreciative and arrogant towards the assistance the U.S. has been rendering to the country annually, which amounts to $500 million United States dollars. He says failure by the Zambian government to work on improving strained relations could see the assurance levels change and funding reduced. Mr. Foot, who described Zambia's current bilateral relations with the U.S. as strained, says the Zambian government wants foreign diplomats to be compliant with open pocketbooks and closed mouths.
I don't want to make today about foreign assistance, but obviously over time, if we are in a country, and we've done great things together in Zambia, and Zambians and Americans should all be proud of what we've done, particularly in the health sector. But I want to give the government of Zambia the opportunity to renew and rejuvenate its partnership with the United States. However, over time, and it's been 2 years for me, if you see that someone is not cooperating, I think the natural inclination would be that assistance levels could change. Thank you.
And Mr. Foot has expressed shock at the venom and hate directed at him and his country by the minority of Zambians over his remarks on the sentencing of the two gay men, largely in the name of Christian values. He adds that contrary to Foreign Affairs Minister Joseph Malangi's claims that he has always been granted audience to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Government, he has, with few exceptions, as the U.S. President's personal representative to Zambia, been relegated to meeting with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Permanent Secretary. Mr. Foot adds that he has only been availed audience with the Republican President 5 times in the past 2 years, usually with delays of months upon his request, and that little action of mutual interest has been taken by State House. And Mr. Foot says he will not attend the commemoration of the World AIDS Day in view of threats he has been receiving following his statement.
Lamentably, I will be unable to attend tomorrow's AIDS Day event because of threats made against me via various media over my comments on the harsh sentencing of homosexuals. In full transparency, my job as the United States Ambassador is to promote the interests, ideals, and values of the United States of America. Zambia is one of the largest per capita recipients of U.S. assistance in the world at $500 million each year. In these countries where we contribute resources, this includes partnering in areas of mutual interest and holding the recipient government accountable for its responsibilities under this partnership. So we have had these other bilateral issues churning over the past many months. And it was and we've tried to solve them, and we could have solved them behind closed doors. But the government of Zambia chose not to do so. And Minister Malangi chose to have a public fight about my comments, my opinion. And so now it's time to advocate for truth, openness, and freedom here in Zambia. If nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. And whatever the consequences might be. The overall Zambian government's approach to U.S. assistance has been incredibly unappreciative and arrogant. And that is not the way you treat your bilateral friends. And I know that they're not going to be happy to hear this, but I told you I would.
A consortium of civil society organizations has appealed to members of parliament to reject the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 as it comes for debate in Parliament on Tuesday, 3rd December 2019. Speaking during a media briefing on behalf of other consortium members who include Action Aid, Center for Trade Policy Development, CSPR and NGOCC among others, Transparency International Zambia Executive Director Wesley Chibamba says Zambia will most likely become a one-party dictatorship if the bill is passed. Mr. Chibamba has reminded members of parliament that they were voted into office by the people, hence the need for them to make a decision in line with the people of what Zambian people want. Here is a report.
The Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019, popularly known as Bill 10, has raised a lot of concern among civil society organizations and concerned citizens as well. Some civil society organizations feel if Bill 10 were to go through and become law, it would fundamentally disturb the personal rights of the citizens of Zambia and the way they exercise those rights. As the most talked about bill goes to Parliament tomorrow for debate, a consortium of civil society organizations has come together to make an earnest appeal to the members of Parliament on behalf of Zambians who are not in support of the bill.
Bill number 10 will be coming up for enactment tomorrow, Tuesday, 3rd December 2019. Our last hope is for our members of Parliament to refuse to vote for the enactment of Bill number 10. We wish to remind our members of Parliament that they have been elected by us, the people of Zambia, to protect our interests and to defend the constitutional provisions that we, the people, chose.
We realize that actually members of Parliament themselves have never consulted the people whom they represent, even when it comes up tomorrow. Most of them have never consulted the people in their constituencies. But for us as civil society, we have tried to sit down and consult them on each and every clause, and they have given their responses and feedback, which we have also provided to Parliament.
Democracy entails that people's views are expressed freely, and you see, these things, as long as they are done within the confines of the law, everybody should be given an opportunity to express themselves.
We have, over the years, made a lot of gains in terms of maturing our democracy. We are not perfect, but we are one of those countries that other countries have been looking at with a lot of envy and pride at how we have been able to progress peacefully. We have gone through transitions. We have even gone through various processes of revising the constitution of this country. But never have we ever had such a divisive process such as this one. Never have we had any proposals to alter the constitution in such a negative manner such as this one.
The Law Association of Zambia is equally against the bill.
Unfortunately, they still exercise their right, to have different opinions on different matters. But as an association, we have come out and said we do not support this bill, and we hope that they will also take a similar stance when they go to Parliament.
As the most debated and talked about bill goes to Parliament for debate tomorrow, the Zambians now await of the outcome. Will their voices be heard or not? Martha Katambi, QTV News in Lusaka.
The Swedish government has sought assurance from the Ministry of Health that funding through the Swedish International Development Agency, SIDA, especially around the medical supply chain, will be prudently utilized. Speaking during a fact-finding meeting with the ministry officials led by Permanent Secretary for Technical Services, Kennedy Malama, Swedish Embassy Head of Mission Karim Siverken, who was accompanied by SIDA Director General Karim Jamtin, questioned what measures the ministry is putting in place to ensure there is accountability and transparency in the use of funds it receives from that country. Ms. Karin questioned why cases of misappropriation of funds and resources by public servants in various ministries, including Ministry of Health, have kept on coming out in the Auditor General's report. And SIDA General, that's Director General Karin Jamtin, who stressed the need for strengthened monitoring and transparency systems in the health sector, sought to know the timeframe the ministry has put in place to address the issues raised in the Auditor General's report.
And what we see is that it's the same systemic issues that come back all the time. So I think one thing is the systems, the other thing is the behavior side. So it's, the classical ones, the unretired inquest, no supporting documentation, invoices are lacking. I mean, it. So I think, and I think we have this repayment plan that is established, and so I think the concern is how are you tackling these systemic issues, because in the end people need to change, right? And these challenges have been in the Zambian public sector for a long time, and from what we can read out from the audit reports, especially in some provinces, we don't see the change. So something needs to be done differently to get that behavior change, and maybe the systems are not enough.
It's always good to report good results and money that is handled in a good way. So that's always important, or that's a precondition for us to be able to continue actually. And so I would like to just follow up on one question, or I have a follow-up question to the ambassador's question, and that is, what is your time? You said that the aim is, of course, to have 0 questions and a clean audit. What is your time plan how to roll out these plans that you have around the administrative office?
And responding to the questions raised, the Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Administration, Kakulubelu Amulalendo, said there has been a reduction in the issues raised in the 2018 Auditor General's report compared to those in 2017, as the ministry has come with a template which has been distributed in all provinces, which needs to be followed for the sake of prudency and accountability. Meanwhile, Ministry Permanent Secretary for Technical Services, Kennedy Malama, says Zambia takes seriously the issues of transparency in the utilization of resources. Dr. Malama adds that the ministry is in the process of establishing a drug fund to help mobilize resources and reduce dependency on the treasury.
We've picked out the common things that come out in the audit, and we've come up with a template that provinces need to look out for as they carry out their day-to-day activities in order to strengthen governance in various areas, so that we reduce or hopefully come up with 0 audit, because our aim is to have 0 audit at the end of the day. If you look at even our 2018 audit report against the 2017 audit report in general, you will see a significant decline in audit queries across all provinces.
Sorry, a significant decline in, I didn't hear.
In audit queries.
Okay.
Yes, across all provinces. So there has been an improvement, generally, a very big improvement. So working with the templates that we are developing, we hope that we'll be able to achieve 0 audit.
So even when you allocated resources every year, one of the things you need to ring fence is drugs, vaccines, and medical supplies. But as I said earlier on, we just need to ensure the sector that we improve on the releases by effectively injecting.
President Edgar Lungu says he still believes that the PF will remain in power beyond 2021. President Lungu says this is based on the fact that the PF government is delivering development it promised to the Zambian people. Speaking in Milenge district in Wapula province when he addressed a rally at Luela Secondary School to drum up support for the PF candidate for the Milenge Council chairperson by-election, Chanda Masheke, President Lungu urged Zambians to work with government in developing the country. He has particularly urged the people of Milenge to vote for the PF candidate in Thursday's by-election to ensure that the development takes place in that area. President Lungu says voting for any other candidate will make it difficult for the government to deliver development because the UPND do not want to work with the PF government. The head of state has since promised the people of Milenge that the Milambo Road that connects Luela village and Chembe district will be worked on. He has also promised the construction of dormitories at Kafwanka Boarding School in Milenge. At another rally in Milumbi Secondary School, President Lungu, who is in Milenge on a 2-day campaign trail, advised PF members to desist from engaging in any form of violence. Veteran politician Vernon Mwanga has observed that the ruling Patriotic Front will find it difficult to win the 2021 general election owing to the economic challenges facing the country. Dr. Mwanga says not even the good propaganda machinery will help the PF win the general election. He has reminded the ruling party that the MMD campaign in 2011 was well supported financially, but still ended up losing the elections. Dr. Mwanga has told QTV News in an interview that the ruling Patriotic Front should wake up and seriously address the challenges the country is currently facing if it wants to retain power. He has pointed out that the high milk prices, load shedding, among others, will cost the PF 2021 election if nothing is done to address these challenges.
Most of them are political animals, and they do launch propaganda machinery. They have a very effective propaganda machinery, but it's not the machinery that wins elections. You see that in 2011, the MMD campaign was very well oiled, it was very well supported financially and otherwise, but the MMD still lost. So it is no guarantee that PF is going to win the forthcoming general elections in 2021. So they will have to work out and attend to these issues which are affecting the citizens of this country who are crying out for help, who are in pain because of the economic situation.
Opposition National Democratic Congress leader Chishimba Kambwili has asked President Lungu to use his conscience and withdraw the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 from the National Assembly. Dr. Kambwili says the bill is a bad taste and is not well intended. He has told journalists in Lusaka that there is no way the content in Bill number 10 should culminate into an act that is going to be part of the country's statuses. Mr. Kambwili has also appealed to members of parliament, regardless of their political affiliation, to reject Bill number 10. And Mr. Kambwili is disappointed with Housing and Infrastructure Development Minister Vincent Mwale's statement that he will still vote for the Bill 10 as part of his collective responsibility. He has urged ministers to learn from what happened in England on Brexit debates, where some cabinet ministers were against and voted against it.
But anyway, I'm appealing to all MPs, Namu Papata, don't disappoint us. Bill 10 is not good for Zambia. Bill 10 in the future will bring bloodshed to this country. Because you know what it means. I mean, somebody, they want a coalition government. Somebody has 30%, another 30, maybe 20. So look, we take off more than the others. You will always be asking the smaller parties to form government. It means that leader will be in government in perpetuity. Is that what you want? If you're too late, search yourself. How can you say the Bank of Zambia should not be printing money? The printing of money must be the responsibility of cabinet. How do you want to bring back deputy ministers? Responsibility is to do the right thing and not look at your pockets. Set your conscience, all of you. But I trust that in that parliament we have got men and women who can stand to this kind of situation. Bill 10 is not good for Zambia. It's a political issue. Forget about what they have said or the Constitution Court. I think it's a political issue, and you, MPs, are politicians. Let's sort this issue in a political way and in a sober way. Bill 10 will mark the end of democracy in Zambia.
The ruling Patriotic Front, PF, has distanced itself from stories circulating on social media that its youths plan on burning down the U.S. Embassy in Lusaka. PF Media Director Sandy Chanda says the ruling party understands its boundaries very well and that the matter involving Ambassador Daniel Foot though of great public concern, is adequately being addressed by Minister of Foreign Affairs, Joe Malanji. Mr. Chanda says the party has information that the rumors are being manufactured and planted online by the opposition political party, which is desperate about getting into State House, even if it meant setting the country on flames. Meanwhile, the Evangelical Youth Alliance AYA Executive Director Reverend Moses Lungu is concerned, if not well handled, the bilateral relations between the United States of America and Zambia that have come under a very serious threat can bring a necessity or unnecessary consequences, and in the end Zambia will suffer. He has since appealed to the United States Ambassador to Zambia, Daniel Foote, to engage President Lungu and air out his grievances in an amicable manner.
The issue of the judgment on the people that were practicing homosexuality has nothing to do with our politics. And America know that we are one of the best countries in the southern region that have opened up our democracy, and we are growing at a faster rate. We are extremely organized as a nation, and we should also understand and appreciate the fact that there is a very strong presence of the church in Zambia, where 90% or more of our people subscribe to Christian values, which do not subscribe to homosexuality. Such liberties are extremely alien to our society and cannot be condoned.
So the issue is, if the ambassador has not done the right thing, the best thing is there is a demarche. Doesn't mean that a relationship between the two countries, because it is one person failing to do the right thing. You understand? And the government of Zambia has got the right to say, please, we want to maturate that peniko umbi, uyu tuamwesha. That's the same thing that, not that there is, I've stated, the relationship between Zambia and America remains cordial. That one person cannot be able to say no because of the way the judgment was done. That was done by the judiciary.
Green Party President Peter Sinkamba says the American ambassador to Zambia, Daniel Foote, just has beef with the Patriotic Front government, which has nothing to do with the jailing of Tukapiri Mposhi homosexuals by Lusaka High Court. Mr. Sinkamba knows the United States has some of the stringent sentences for sexual offences in the world, which by far cannot be comparable to the 15 years imposed on the two homosexuals. He has told QTV News that it is not fair to condemn the High Court for the harsh sentence handed on the gay couple. Mr. Sinkamba believes the real issue that has pissed off the U.S. ambassador is the rampant corruption in the PF government, which he says is the axis of evil for the beef.
I shudder to see the American government taking an action on our government on account of corruption. You know, we receive aid in excess of $200 million. Actually, according to ambassadors, about $500 million. And that's a lot of money what we're receiving towards our healthcare systems. And if they withdraw that, we don't have any place to get the money. Already we are failing to find money for power. Our power, we only $20 million to import power. We are failing to find that kind of money, giving us problems. What more if there's a withdrawal of $200 million or $500 million? Where are we going to find that money? We have depleted our reserves. Now there's no money to talk about. It's almost less than $1 billion now. So really, we need to be careful. I think let's deal with the issue of corruption more seriously, because it's getting to the nerves of our donors, especially the Americans.
Action Aid Country Director Nalucha Ziva has noted the need to address the current power crisis the country is facing with the seriousness it deserves. Ms. Ziva notes that the inflation has continued to increase, an indication that the productivity levels in the country are very low due to load shedding businesses are being subjected to. She states that the country seems to be a bit lukewarm in its approach to applying measures to address the electricity crisis. Ms. Ziva says there is need to consider investing in alternative clean sources of energy and help mitigate the energy crisis.
And also food inflation has also continued to increase. So it shows you that our productivity levels as a country are still low because of the amount of load shedding which small-scale businesses and even large-scale businesses are being subjected to. So there's just need to totally address this energy issue. It's no longer, we keep saying it's a crisis. It needs to be addressed because it's not like we have known about it this time around. It has been there, it has been projected. But what is it that what has been done around it by successive governments. So we seem to be a bit lukewarm in our approach to be applying cosmetic measures as opposing to addressing the structural causes of this load shedding. And one of it, of course, yes, of course, we can attribute it to climate because largely as a country we're highly dependent on hydropower. But how do we look at also alternative clean sources of energy? Which the country can invest in. So those are some of the questions. And also, what is our commitment towards climate change? If you look at the announced 2020 budget, it received one of the budgetary allocation. So what are we saying about it? So our actions do not seem to speak to what it is that we are trying to address.
Civil rights activist Brenda Changala has charged that Zambians now appear to be living in a very dangerous episode of their time. Mr. Changala says he has never seen Zambia more divided than it is now under the PF government. He tells QTV News that President Edgar Lungu's cabinet itself is a proper example of how divided the country is. Mr. Changala says from his observation, most of the members of President Lungu's cabinet are either from Eastern Province or the northern region of Zambia. He says his worries that the regionalism has also cascaded at permanent secretary level, despite other regions in the country having well-qualified persons to hold such government officers.
Look what the cabinet of Mr. Edgar Chogolungu is all northern and eastern. Look what his permanent secretaries, northern and eastern. That is Zambia to him. Look what the directors in the ministries, northerners and eastern. And yet the best brains any developing person in Zambia can ever get is from Western Province. That's the chamber of intellectual hope. Lord, his brains fire on all four cylinders at all times, and yet they are not part of the equation. This mess, economic mess you are going through, if you had engaged some of the finest brains in our land, from Western Province, from Southern Province, from Northwestern Province, where the lucky Murusas of this world come from, you will have a solution by the end of this week, starting today, a Monday. They will tell you the way out, because they know the way you came in.
Lands and Natural Resources Minister Jean Kapata has disclosed that the process of validating the draft National Land Policy, which is expected to commence this month, is likely to be completed by January 2020. Ms. Kapata says the validation process, which will take place in Lusaka, will see stakeholders, mainly traditional leaders and some non-government organizations, taking on board recommendations that were raised during the formulation of the draft policy. She has told journalists that although the formulation of the policy has been dragging, the process is, however, on course. Ms. Kapata says the proposed land policy will bring to an end the chaotic land allocation in Zambia.
Well, we are on course with the land policy. We are supposed to be doing a validation in December, and validation is the final stage at which all stakeholders are invited to that meeting to make sure that the issues which were raised during the process of formulating the land policy has been carried on board. And our main stakeholders are our traditional leaders and many other NGOs. So we are likely to have this on the 28th of December here in Lusaka. And as soon as come January, the document will be on the table, and we'll have to deliver that document.
Lusaka Provincial Education Officer Christopher Sinkamba says the Ministry of General Education will continue to reform the education sector so that it becomes relevant to the needs of all stakeholders. Speaking during the Horizon School 2019 Grade 7 awards giving and graduation ceremony, Mr. Sinkamba says the introduction of school-based assessment is one such reform. He adds that the reform entails that school-going children will be assessed continuously by their teachers, and every year their accumulated grades will be added to their final score in the national examinations.
I'm sure you parents present here, you are aware that in the recent past, the Ministry of Education made some reforms, and at that level, the ministry introduced the school-based assessment. For example, they just ended grade 12 examinations. They did not write practicals the usual way they used to do it, together with the theory papers. Instead, all practicals were assessed through school-based assessment. So they only did the theory, and the marks for the practicals would be added from what they were doing through the school-based assessment.
Speaking at the same ceremony, Horizon School's head teacher, Sydney Chilanda, says the school will continue to invest in human capital resource in order to achieve its desired cause in its quest to supplement government efforts in delivering quality and affordable education. Mr. Chilanda has since urged the graduating pupils to remain focused and steadfast as they begin their academic journey through secondary education.
And we are hopeful that these learners who are graduating here this morning will measure up to our expectations by getting excellent scores in the just ended the 7 national examinations. Your guest of honor, sir, may I just say the examinations at Horizon Schools this year at the 7 levels, of course not forgetting the other levels, have been 100% malpractice free. The guest of honor, sir, this has not been a mini achievement. It has been a result of combined and well-synchronized efforts of our learners, parents, qualified and experienced teachers under a focused management team that continue to deliver these results year after year. As a school, we have invested and shall continue to invest in human and capital resources in order to achieve the desired goals in our quest to supplement the efforts of the government of the Republic of Zambia in delivering quality and affordable education to all our learners.
When we think about how far we've come and how we've grown up, and we are now, we have to thank Mr. Frank Mutale Kimkwende and Mr. Jacob Mukombe for their tireless efforts. Their loving, timely counsel, of course, their fatherly heart and dedication. Our time here has been no walk in the park. We have faced many challenges and obstacles, which we have had to overcome. And not to begin, the number of obstacles which we have, the number of family members here grateful that their loved ones have no more deadlines of submitting assignments and countless extra lessons.
The 4-star Southern Sun Ridgeway Hotel in Osaka has been refurbished at a total cost of $7 million. Company General Manager Paul Norman says the refurbishment of the hotel will bring a fresh, contemporary design to one of Zambia's oldest hotels, which was first opened in 1953. Speaking during a media tour of the refurbished hotel, Mr. Norman says the hotel has in the last 11 months undergone a major renovation of its reception, rooms, restaurant and other areas. Mr. Norman has since assured customers that there will be no interruptions of electricity supply during the load shedding the country is experiencing.
And that's what we are. We're a part of the community. And yes, we've got a brand new refurb, but we didn't try in doing the refurbishment to be glitz and glamour and so on. We are a contemporary hotel. We like to think that with the completion of the rooms, so as I say, we started in early January with the rooms and finished the rooms in October. So it was a long process, but we think worth it. And now we've in fact finished with the reception. In a moment we'll walk through there and have a look at reception. And that really is the theme of the rooms carried through to the public area.
As we end the news, let's have a quick look at the headlines once more. U.S. Ambassador to Zambia Daniel Foote has implored the Zambian government to commit to improving what he has described as its decaying relationship with the United States. The Consortium of Civil Society Organizations has appealed to members of Parliament to reject the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 as it comes up in Parliament for debate. And the Swedish government has sought assurance from the Ministry of Health that its funding, especially towards the medical supply chain, will be prudently utilized. Ends the news. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. God bless.